The organization was formed as a gap was identified on the grassroots women representation in the climate change debates, and it was discovered that they didn't have a platform where the information could be gotten from the national platform, the international platforms, and then disseminated down to them. That was the purpose of the formation of the network. And the network was started in 2009, registered in 2011, and is representing women from the grassroots to the national platforms. So it has been structured down from the national level to the village champions, that's the lowest units. And what we do is we have a feedback mechanism from both the national levels. We disseminate the information downwards. We use the same structure to get the information back. It's a feedback mechanism.
Right. I mean, presumably you found that women, especially in rural communities, just simply didn't have a voice, didn't have the self-confidence to put their voice forward. I mean, how do you go about giving them that self-confidence to speak out and be heard?
Basically, we have representation of women in all the structural levels. We have the county coordinators. Downwards, we go to constituency coordinators, ward coordinators, and the village champions. So what we do is we have any information that we need to reach the grassroots woman, the village woman. We normally use the structure. We build the capacity of the county coordinators, then it trickles down. It has a trickle-down effect. Then after that, we also move out from the national. We follow up, and then we advise the women. We build their capacity at the grassroots levels using the same mechanism.
Right. I mean, once women have got the self-confidence, once they've got that voice, what are the main concerns that you find they're expressing? What are they talking about, basically, especially in these rural communities?
One of the things that has come out as we are working in the network is that women are really suffering. They've been suffering, but they never related the suffering with the climate change. So what we just trying to do is to demystify their suffering and relate it with climate change. Some of the issues that we have been able to identify from the grassroots is that we have a lot of nutritional problems, and this has seen so many women die as they are giving birth because their bodies are not strong. They cannot push the baby, so they end up dying at delivery beds. Then the other is they do not have enough iron in their blood, so they bleed a bit and then they get anemic, and most of them lose their lives, particularly so if they're not in the hospitals. So we also have a record of very many respiratory diseases among women, which we can attribute to the emissions from the firewood they use for cooking, the long hours they stay in the kitchens, and the kitchens are poorly ventilated. So we've seen the women and children having developed a lot of respiratory problems. The other thing is we found that the women in Kenya, the rural women in Kenya are having a lot of backache problems because they carry their firewood, their water on their backs, and as a result, you find them having backaches about 60% of the rural women complain of backaches when they get to the age of 50 years. The children are like, they have a problem because the food insecurity brought about by climate change forces the children to omission of meals. And we've seen children refusing to go to school because they have nothing to take with them for lunch. So that's another big gap that we have identified in the rural as a big impact that has affected the life of the communities in the rural areas.
So the problems are being identified, women are being given a voice, they're speaking out, they're organising. Is anybody listening? Are the politicians listening? Are the other organisations listening and responding to this voice?
One of the biggest challenges we have and which we are trying to cope up with is women have been omitted in the decision-making processes, right from the grassroots level. If you go to an example of even a cattle dip, the committee, you hardly find a woman there. So we are empowering our women to put their voice. We're also having meetings with the grassroots level of leadership and the county level leadership so that we impose upon them the need to include women in all the development committees in the county. So we are now seeing, for instance, we have had two successful success stories because we got a woman from a remote place called West Pokot. And West Pokot was able to get that woman into the meetings in the, what you call the devolved fund meetings. Initially, the only woman you'd find in such funds are the political supporters of the sitting member of parliament. But now it has become, we've been able to champion the rights to have the women get involved in those committees, those development platforms, so that they bring in first the issue of the climate change, because even those committees may not be aware of the climate change. So our women now are trainers of the committees, and then that way we get our space in it. Because unless a woman knows something, she cannot go to talk about it. So the network has really been working to champion and to enlighten the women so that they have the capacity to convince the men committees, the men-dominated committees, to give them space. And we are getting it, we've already gotten it in 2 counties now, and we hope to get it in many more counties from now.